Meeting come to order, please. Johanna, would you please read the statement of compliance?
The notice requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act for this meeting have been satisfied. A copy of the annual meeting notice was sent to the press of Atlantic City, Star Ledger, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, the municipal website, and filed in the office of the municipal clerk. Please turn off all cell phones.
Thank you. Let's all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Becker.
Here.
Commissioner Amadeo.
Here.
Commissioner Blumberg.
I am here.
Thank you. Mr. Dennis, are you ready?
I am ready. Okay. Am I the only one on the agenda today? So we got nothing but time, huh? Okay. Item number A, if that makes sense, the Beach Thoroughfare Dredging Project. So we did have a meeting finally with the City of Ventnor. I guess it would have been this week, it was Monday. I attended along with Mr. Abbott. Roger was there. Joe Johnston from my office was there as well, as well as representatives from the City of Ventnor. Scott did send out a memo summary of that meeting. The purpose of that meeting was to discuss the Shelter Island disposal site for dredge material, which would be a restoration site from an environmental standpoint, but also a disposal site for dredge material, both for the City of Margate, the City of Ventnor, and potentially for third parties if that were to come into play as an option. We discussed the need for the City of Ventnor to sign off on a Tidelands application. We will need a Tidelands license from the state because there are Tidelands claimed areas within Shelter Island. So in order for us to move forward, where we are in the process is we, Remington and Vernick, have prepared a Tidelands plan, Tidelands application documents. We're almost at a point where we will be ready to submit those documents to the state, but because Ventnor co-owns Shelter Island with the City of Margate, we need them to sign off. They had some concerns that they brought to the table that we addressed. Scott did summarize them in his memo, but they were basically, a lot of it was related to down the road when we actually do the dredging, what would be the impacts of using that location as a disposal site to the people that live in that area. We talked about that, and we talked about controls that we could put into the bid document with relation to hours of work and things of that nature to try to control any negative impacts to the people that live there. There was not a concern, but I guess we all kind of discussed that as far as the capacity of that site, there was an understanding that it would be split 50-50 between the two cities as far as what part of that capacity would be available to the City of Margate as far as volume for disposal of dredge material and how much would be available to the City of Ventnor. We discussed a 50-50 split. And then Ventnor also was just curious how we were handling the actual dredging permitting, which is also proceeding on a parallel track. And we explained that we're doing a citywide permit, which would include privately owned areas that could be dredged by private property owners, but under the city's permit. And that alleviated some of Ventnor's concerns. It's my understanding that a large portion of the areas that they would eventually want to dredge are privately owned. And they had some concerns that the private property owners would not be able to bear the cost associated with testing the materials and so forth. So, we just told them how we're approaching it and how by doing it as a citywide, the private property owners could come in under our permit. So they, can take that under advisement and potentially may decide to do the same thing. But coming out of that meeting, I think that, and Scott, you could jump in here, that Commissioner Landgraf, who attended on behalf of the governing body, was going to bring it back to the full governing body and they would discuss it further at that point. And I think that's how we left it.
Yeah, I was able to make the meeting in person. I think Ventnor wanted to make sure that we didn't take it all or hog their share. It is a 50-50 deal, unless we agree otherwise, but the capacity there is is way, I mean, I would hope we got near our half in the next 5 to 10 years. Recall that when we do start dredging, you're really limited by so many different things, seasonal, migratory birds, fish. If you get 50,000 cubic yards a year done, that's a lot. And the idea is to use this dredge hole to restore the marine habitat, and also it would be the cheapest way for us and for Ventnor to do any of their dredging needs. I had sent you the memo, I believe I included the Ocean City permit from 5 years ago, where they included all the private owners. They include a citywide permit. But it would be up to the individual private owners in Margate to pay for their costs. We're looking for the areas that are really public, like the lagoons, and maybe some other areas there that private couldn't possibly dredge it. So it was very favorable. I think one of the concerns too was the smell of dredge material, but they have to bear in mind this material is being put into the water, so there's not really going to be any odor problem because it goes right from a barge or pipe and is put into that hole. All in all, I rated it as a pretty good meeting. Commissioner Landgraf sounded very favorable, but he does have to clear it with his governing body members. And we emphasized that, look, we paid the cost, and we did get some grant money to pursue this Shelter Island site. They would have to get their city permit, we'd have to get our citywide permit. So, all in all, it was a good meeting, I thought.
Okay. Thank you, Scott.
Thank
So,
you.
so just to put a bow on that update, there's three things happening in parallel. There's this Tidelands issue that we're working with Ventnor on. There's the citywide permit that we are working on the permit plans and applications for that. And then there is the Stockton studies that are ongoing and seasonal. So all three of those processes are moving on parallel tracks.
Those Stockton studies were done this fall.
Right.
That was mandated, 2 full years, 2 cycles of everything going on in there, and we're just about done.
Yep.
Scott,
Go ahead.
I'd like to ask you, Scott, if you sometime in the next month or so could put another memo out, kind of outlining the things that have to take place in the next year, kind of sequentially as you understand it,
I will be happy to do
in consultation with, of course, Ed
that.
and Roger. The reason why I want to do that is I want all of us to kind of anticipate all of the other steps that have to take place before we get to actually dredging. And obviously, a big one is financing, and so we need to understand the timing so that we can prepare for the financing and maybe grants or other things that might be available to us. So if we can sequentially lay it out for the next 12 months, that would be
Absolutely.
helpful.
Yeah, I mean, for instance, our permit, when we do apply for it, it's good for 5 years, but I understand that they'll give us a 5-year extension. So we're really talking about a 10-year period of time to break it up and minimize the cost of any one dredging event to that 1 year. So, yes, I will be happy to put together that outline.
And to include potentially, as I would envision it, right now we need approval from Ventnor to sign the Tidelands, which is an important step, but just the initial step. I would envision some kind of an agreement with them, a more formalized agreement with them going down with, when we get ready to actually do whatever we're going to do
I think we
with the dredging. So
certainly
I think
could
we should begin to
memorialize
think
it.
about some of those kind of things.
I think their fear was, we take the whole and fill it all up for ourselves and take their half, but we can't do that, we're not doing that.
Hey, Rich, is there a small chance, maybe, minute, that the project might qualify for federal infrastructure money?
We're going to explore that, but when we met with the Army Corps several times, the lady in charge of that very much wants to work on the inland waterways here in Atlantic County, which would certainly benefit Margate and Ventnor, because if you're a boater in Margate, you're probably running up to Atlantic City on that mile stretch. But also, we have some limited areas. If I recall, it was 10,000 cubic yards she thought that they would need for the inland waterway. But I'm not sure where that location was. I know some of it was the mile stretch.
And would part of that area, Scott, be what they call the intercoastal? I mean, so
Yes,
if
the
we're part of
intercoastal,
the
the inland waterway,
intercoastal,
yes.
then maybe that helps us with trying to get some type of federal dollars.
Commissioner, it's a good idea. If we can get any of that infrastructure money,
Okay.
Okay.
we will work on that end of it.
I think what we may be able to do is we could try to frame the Shelter Island site as a resiliency project, and that may be our best angle for the FEMA money. So, and I know this grant, round just came out, so we can look at that.
I just want to supplement that, Ed. We just got a communication from Jim Rotella, and we're putting together internally, I've asked a number of people to suggest projects that would be eligible for FEMA funding, and we'll add that to the group of projects that have been suggested to me.
Okay. Ed, please continue.
Will do. Item B is the floodproofing of this building. So at the last commissioners meeting, we discussed the need to ratchet up the effort to try to break this additional funding loose from FEMA. The plan that we discussed was that I would give some information over to Chief Adams, who had some good contacts at the county OEM level. And I think, Chief, you reached out and we got an update back that was similar to the update we've been getting, which was it's under review. Unless you have anything else to add. I think that was.
Yeah, the only thing to add is I followed up with another email to Mr. Felix Merced, and he said he was gonna push it up the chain at the OEM office to see, in New Jersey, to see if they could help us out to try and expedite FEMA. He understands our plight, and I spent about 45 minutes on the phone with him yesterday, explaining that we can't even close out the old project because it's tied to the new project, which we can't seem to get anywhere on. So he got a very blunt answer from FEMA, and he's gonna send it up the chain in his superior level and see if they can get anywhere for us.
So I think the next step will be, we are going to get clarification on if we proceed with this project using city funding, do we remain eligible to be reimbursed through FEMA if and when that funding is released? So that's the next question that we will get answered. In the meantime, we're requesting another 30-day extension from our contractor. Item C is now complete. The emergency response plan was certified by Public Works, so that item will come off the list, and this process is now complete. The two steps in the process, the risk and resiliency assessment and the emergency response plan, are complete and certified. That will come off the list.
Now that we have all that, what's the next step? Are there things in the plan that we should be beginning to implement?
Oh, for sure. There's an asset management plan that has a variety of projects that need to take place, and there's a 150-year cycle for water main replacement. We, even before this plan came about, have been very proactive with it, so we're on a good pace. But there's, and we talked about looking at that list for potential use of the recovery funding as potential projects, but.
Could you meet with whoever you have to meet with and then meet with me and
Yep.
say 3 weeks?
Yes. Will do. Okay, item D is the Adams Avenue Pump Station. This was a FEMA grant application that was submitted last year. I did check with Jim a week or so ago. I don't think we've heard anything back yet on this application, so we continue to wait on a funding decision there.
I think that's true. However, Jim sent me an email today and said that we should reapply pending under this new phase.
Yeah.
So just keep that in
Right.
mind. I know he does most of that, but still.
Yep.
If we have to get an application in for the new phase before we're here on the old phase, let's double our chances.
We stay in the running, right. Okay, I'll coordinate that with Jim. Minnie Creek, so the report was issued a few weeks ago, and we did send out, I think yesterday, the budgetary cost estimate. It's a significant project. It's around $2 million all in. And just as a 30-second explanation of what that includes, it would include the new floodgate at Minnie Creek. And the big part of the cost is it would include upsizing all of the pipes and inlets on the streets that drain into Minnie Creek so that we have more capacity going into the creek. That involves utility relocation, pipe work, road restoration, curb. So that's the big chunk of the cost, is it would be a significant utility project and road reconstruction project. But as we've talked about at many meetings, we do these studies and we have these concepts and estimates on hand for when an opportunity like this grant opportunity comes up with FEMA, and this would certainly be a candidate for that funding.
All right, at some point, when we have these meetings and this stays on the list, I'd like to get a little feedback from the commissioners who might want to get feedback from other professionals here about where this stands in the priority list, so that if we get limited opportunities to apply for funds, we need to pick and choose. And this is a prime candidate like the Adams Avenue one. However, you know, we may have other candidates that are higher priority, and so at any rate, you need to help us prioritize after we give you a list.
Okay. 2021 curb and gutter program is being advertised for bids tomorrow. I think there's a resolution on today authorizing that advertisement, and the bid opening is scheduled for September 2nd. So that project is going out to bid. The bridle path is in design. It's a big project. It's slated for construction next fall, so that will we'll work on that design over the fall and winter, and I believe that will be considered for funding in the next bond for construction. Item H is Amherst Avenue Phase 2. We do have this design is in progress, and we have a meeting scheduled with the school district next week. I think the chief will be there. And this project the construction of this project will impact the areas surrounding the schools, so we just want to make sure we're all on the same page logistically on how this can be accomplished with minimal disturbance or disruption to the school operation and of course, the neighborhood in that area. So that meeting is next week on Wednesday.
Question on that.
Sure.
Does the fire chief need to be there? He may not have even been invited, so I don't know.
I was on that list,
Oh, I was on that list too, and now we have a contract.
meeting, but I can send my deputy fire chief for that.
Okay.
Okay.
It's not a problem.
And chief, I'm not gonna be at that meeting, but I
Yeah.
don't know that I have to, but if
It's
there's
more of a
anything-
traffic.
If there's anything I need, just please let me know.
I will.
I think it's a good meeting to have, so we're.
Question, Mayor?
Yep.
Hey, when do you think we'll go out for bid for that second phase?
I think we're getting close. I'll have to check with JJ on where he's at with the plans, but we're getting close.
How long of a period, how many months is the job?
It may be similar to I can't remember how long the construction period was on the last phase, but it'll probably be comparable. I'll check on that, I'll get back to you.
Well, it's cleaner because
Yep.
for a long stretch, probably 600, 700 yards, there's no residential houses and the school's on
Right.
the other side.
Yep,
So you don't have laterals and all the other stuff to contend with for a long stretch,
agreed.
except for the pump station on Amherst Avenue.
Yep,
And a couple fire hydrants.
right.
Yeah.
I'll check with JJ on that.
All right.
Get back to you. All right, so the next project on the list is the municipal building renovation project. We did send out updated drawings, and Fred, I saw you just got back to them today, so they've been blessed. So we now have a final floor plan, so to speak. The next step is that these preliminary plans will be sent out for cost estimating. That's what's gonna happen now. And then when that estimate comes back, we'll get together again and go over where we're at budget-wise with the estimate and make any changes that we need to make. So that is moving ahead. Item J, I have no update. Item K, construction projects. Our maintenance bonds are all caught up. We've got one coming up in November, so there's nothing to report there. We do have a schedule for the completion of the only items left on the punch list for Atlantic Avenue Phase 1 and Phase 2, which is striping restoration. We reached out to the striping subcontractor who's Zone, who also happens to be the contractor that did our road diet project. And the main issue they've been dealing with is with all the traffic in town. A lot of the areas that need to be striped, there's vehicles parked, and there's like 50 different locations that they need to hit, especially on the road diet. So what they've done is they've scheduled the striping for the week of September 13th. And then we can coordinate with the police department to try to make sure that we've got, no parking up where we need it, so they can come in and finally finish this out. But that is the only items remaining on the 2 Lafayette contracts for Atlantic Avenue is striping. So once that's done, we can finally close those jobs out. So that's scheduled for the week of September 13th. So that covers item L and item M. Item N is the bulkhead on Amherst Avenue, and again, same update, once the electrical work is done in association with the promenade, there's a little bit of electrical work that was part of the bulkhead project, then we can close out the bulkhead contract with Trident Marine.
Dave, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Ed, my electrical inspector met Dave Dell down there today to get that electric meter hot.
Okay.
So he gave him a cut-in card today to get that service on, right at the, I guess that would be Madison Avenue.
Okay, great.
All right?
Yeah, and I got a call from the electric company. It's going to happen in the next day or two.
Okay. Great. Item O is Amherst Avenue, Phase 1, Douglas to Clarendon. So on the construction side, the update that I have is that we have been keeping an eye on this site, again, just looking at the road. And Mathis Construction did finally get back to us, and they will be going out to address some of the concerns that have been identified at past meetings and that we have had on a list for a number of weeks, which include ramping up around the manholes, ramping up around the curb ramps, and any other items to keep that site maintained until final paving is completed in the fall. So they do have that, I believe, on their schedule for next week, I believe is what I saw in the email, so they will be out there.
Did you get a copy of my report from Chu?
I don't know if I did.
All right. If not, just, I'll
Okay.
make sure I get another copy.
Okay.
Thanks to Frank, he went down there and chopped the weeds out of that sidewalk. They were like 4 feet high, and he put in more caution tape because the guy was afraid to go near that section, the owner.
Yeah.
So, thanks, Frank.
Yeah, that's the public right of way, that's fine.
Okay.
And Nick called me and said yesterday morning, either Friday or Monday, Melissa scheduled it.
Yeah, that's what I can remember, if it was Friday or Monday. Yep, so it'll either be tomorrow or Monday. They're supposed to come out. This is Mathis Construction to address some of these items that are on the list. Item P is the road diet. I did touch on that, so when the zone striping comes in to do the striping punch list for Atlantic Avenue, they will also finish out the striping that they weren't able to get to because of the parked vehicles on the road diet. And then also on the road diet, I believe we are moving forward with the clock synchronization.
So, we had, Rich and I spoke along with Lisa as part of that project. We're going to go ahead with it because we put the lights on flash in the off-season. When we put them back on, it's going to be on the same timing pattern. The timing pattern we have now seems to be working very well. So it'd be a shame to lose that timing pattern when they put them back on off the flash. And I assume that even if we had a power outage, we could resync them because that happens a lot also. So it serves two purposes for us. So I think it's a win all the way around.
Right, so what this does is that basically, all the traffic signal controls have a clock in them, and this addition would synchronize those clocks every 30 seconds. So if we had a power outage or whatever it might be, it will, when it cycles, it'll sync everything back up, which we haven't had in the past.
No.
So this will stay synced up, so I think it's a wise investment.
Question, Ed.
Yep,
Is it the same company that did the timing?
yes.
Okay, so what's I don't want to throw this out there, but what would be the timeline?
I don't, they need to get their clocks synced up. I don't know. We just got the PO
I'd
yesterday.
like to see it sooner than later.
Right, yeah, we just got the PO yesterday, so we will, and I wanted to just bring it up at this meeting before I sent them the PO, just to make sure we are moving forward. So we'll
Okay.
send it over, and I will ask them for a schedule.
They gave us a price and all?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. All right, all right. Item Q is the promenade. So the latest update, as I was walking out the door, I don't think we've had another update, is that the lumber is supposed to be delivered here tomorrow. And Chavon will be back on site Monday to continue with the decking. He thinks it's gonna be close with this delivery that's coming in. It may, it's gonna get him really close to finishing out the decking, but there is another load that is supposed to be coming up following this delivery. So, but he's hopeful that this will get him very close on finishing out the decking. So we should see them back out there again on Monday, as long as everything is delivered tomorrow as scheduled.
Yeah, we spoke with the contractor also. The site's ready for the lumber. The parking's going to be ready. We're just hoping everything gets there at the same
Just
time.
need to We just need the truck to show up.
As long as it didn't come this morning.
Right. Item R and S, for that matter, are both in the closeout phase. So that is just a matter of closing out some paperwork and closing those contracts out. Item T, we are waiting on a delivery of the roof trusses, which I think, I got it on here, they're scheduled to be delivered Monday. I don't know if you've heard.
That's what I was told as well.
Yep, so then once those come in, they can continue with the framing.
We just had a little hiccup with that with the gas company. We apparently put the addition on top of the active gas line. They came there and shut it off. They didn't realize we were gonna terminate it, relocate it into the fire station
Right.
in front.
Okay.
So once they knew that, then they were, they got, it was like a hornet's nest. You know
Right.
what I mean, there were like 10 of them there. Like, where are you guys all coming from?
Just to elaborate on that, I had several conversations with Mr. Aliano before the footings even went in and before the block work went in. And I said that basically they had terminated the hot water heater, which was the only thing left that was running gas in the building. And I told him that he could have the gas company cut it at the curb at that point. And it wasn't till after basically the first floor and all that was framed that the gas company came out and cut it. So they did go right over top of it. I met with the gas company representative out there on Tuesday, and we finalized, I met with JJ the day before, or Monday, I met with JJ Tuesday and the gas company Wednesday, whatever. But we finalized the location where it's gonna go, the meter. So everything's good. The gas company said they'll probably be out this week to run the new line.
It was the mark out for the pole in the back, the alert system that triggered that.
Yeah, but they should have seen it because it went right through the whole addition. Plus, it was in the plans, and they missed it. So,
Okay.
And the last item on my list is the redevelopment of Well 5, which we had our pre-construction meeting on in July and is scheduled to begin in October. And I tried to read as slow as I could.
Thank you very much, Ed. You did good today. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Well,
Only a half hour, 27 minutes. Good job.
we'll now do department head reports. Roger, do you have anything for us? Why don't you start today?
All's good in planning and zoning. Planning board meeting next Thursday. Should be a lengthy meeting the next couple of months, but things are getting through.
Cool, cool. Thank you. Chief?
I'll be brief as well. We had a very successful law day last Tuesday, or last Wednesday.
Wednesday.
It was well-attended. It was a really nice evening. Nice turnout. We'd like to see that turnout more get bigger over the next few years. Successful summer so far, a few more weekends, and it's Labor Day. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. Rich, have you anything to report?
Too brief. Done. Something called Daniel's Law was passed last November, and I'm just bringing the attention to you as commissioners, which in turn brings it to the public. The purpose of that law is that no municipality or department or any other agency is supposed to release the addresses of any current police officers, law enforcement officers of any kind, including retired officers, and in some cases, families of those people, so that anytime we get a request for addresses, we're supposed to black out or not release those addresses, those particular addresses. This may seem to be simple, but it affects everything from requests for permits for demolition to Oprah requests to requests by realtors for the list of all the owners in certain neighborhoods or certain, which happens if not daily, weekly. We get lists that want all of our taxpayers. It's public record. We have to give them the list. We have no idea who might live at houses and what their occupations are, or what they're retired from, or who they're related to. We're not alone. This is every municipality in the state. I'm just bringing this to your attention because we've been discussing it internally. We don't know how to easily adhere to that law. We will not do it knowingly, but the fact is, we don't know. So that's all I wanted to say about it, other than they say ask your local attorney, so we're turning it over to our local attorney. We're asking him his advice.
It's quite a remarkable law. It was in response to a federal judge's home being attacked and her son being killed. But how we're supposed to determine if we have say a 10-year retired police officer from the northwest portion of New Jersey living in Margate is beyond anyone's knowledge at this point. I know every town is looking for guidance. The state has offered no guidance at this point. The law becomes effective in this coming December. So we still have about 4 months to try to figure out how do we not include, for instance, in a zoning case where you have to mail notices to everybody within 200 feet. How do we determine any retired federal judge, police officer, FBI agent, Treasury agent? It's a long list, and with virtually no guidance at this point. So I'm sure it's a major problem throughout the state, and they'll ultimately straighten it out. I would think they'll probably end up extending this start date for this, because I don't know how you're going to come up with that.
Okay.
We'll see.
Thank you, Scott. Rich, you.
Second item, as of today, this afternoon, we issued some new guidelines internally for the city of Margate with respect to COVID. We all know nationally we're back to a whole series of other guidelines and policies, and a lot of it's left to local governments to figure out. The short and the long of it is, if you're vaccinated, in almost all cases, we're not suggesting or requiring any masking. But if you're unvaccinated, which means anybody that hasn't, any employee that has not notified us that they are vaccinated, we have to assume that they're unvaccinated. For whatever reason they're unvaccinated, for why ever, they're going to be required to wear masks indoors, in our facilities. It's as simple as that. It'll probably change again. We took advice from, we have a 3-person committee, an internal committee that we've had since the beginning, and they've done a lot of work. Dan and Fred and Kelly Amadeo are the 3 people that meet frequently, and they seek guidance from the medical director that we now use, that the fire department has long used as a medical director. They've made suggestions, we've modified them, including this time. We have not gone as far as some of the suggestions suggested. We've sent out these guidelines to the other department heads, the key department heads, received comments. It was released this afternoon, and it'll be effective immediately. It's guidelines. We're just trying to keep our employees safe. We do have had, to my knowledge, one recent case of an employee who's a part-time summer employee that came down with COVID, but we do have family members of other employees that have also contracted COVID in the last 30 days. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Jim?
Yeah, Mike. So next Tuesday between 10 and 12 a.m., well, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., we're going to do a 4-signal test on the emergency alert. It's out in the parking lot. It'll be 3 short sound tones that will be emitted from each individual pole, and then all four poles at once. We have to do the test from the central area, and we also have to do the test from the pole. So it'll be somebody at the central station, which is located at Union Avenue, 2nd floor, where Fred keeps all the computer equipment. So that test, we went out to do an email blast and a Facebook page and a website notification for all individuals in Margate to be notified of this test.
Jim, can you name the 4 locations of the sirens
Sirens are 1, Station 2, and the ball field,
and here?
right here,
Yep.
station.
Yeah.
There's 3 locations.
So there's 3 locations?
Yes, 3 locations.
I thought there were 4.
Just 3, no, 4, no, each pole, one's the sound burst per pole, and then the 4th one will be all poles at once.
Right. Last question. I see on the bill list 41,000 for that, but that's fully reimbursable, right?
Yeah, well, 75-25% split.
Very good, thank you.
Any more questions on that? Maureen?
You did say there's going to be a phone blast that we're going to send out.
We're going to do everything possible. We're even going to try to do into the media.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's gonna be something.
Good.
The second thing is
Rich, did you,
Yeah, just, the
Rick-
date of that is,
Tuesday.
was
Tues-
that changed date?
Yeah, we changed it from Monday.
Wanna make
Because
Sorry.
there was court here Monday, and Maureen asked that we do it at a different
So,
day.
it was notified, if you changed the date, you did notify Kelly and the people were putting it on social media.
The new memo has already gone out.
Fred, thank you.
Fred, as always, you're the best. The second topic is Atlantic County Hazard Mitigation Plan is completed and sent to the consultant who requested the information. Thank you for all the people involved for your participation. Gina's finished it up just this afternoon. Hopefully, all the projects that Jim Mertel had listed, we get some funding for, and we could potentially get Margate better funding, better ready for the next storm or whatever potential flooding event that happens.
Cool.
That's all I have.
thank you, Jim. Fred?
Well, now that my top secret location has been revealed, I will be requesting a ton of money to move it to a new location.
How are we gonna move the cot?
The cot moves easily. No,
It's on
everything is good. We'll blur it out on Google Earth.
Summer parking.
Frank?
Tuesday, we're getting delivery on our new street sweeper. We're getting it from Golden Equipment. Our beaches are in great shape. Hopefully after the weekend, they're still in great shape. We do have our eye on that storm that's coming up the coast. We are prepared. We'll be taking down the flowers tomorrow. We have plenty of pallets of sandbags. And, we might start moving some of the trash cans behind the dunes. That's all I have.
Thank you, Frank.
You'll see on the agenda, the introduction of ordinance 12-2021. This is captioned Construction General Requirements. The first phase of this new ordinance has to do with pool construction because of the various complaints, many complaints we get, particularly in the summer. And this was a real team effort on this one. I had a lot of help from everybody. Jimmy Galantino, Roger, Rich Deeney did major editing, Johanna Casey, Commissioner Amadeo. I think actually came to my office one day, we went through wording. And I was gratified to find that several of the pool contractors were happy with the idea that we would impose a moratorium on gunite spraying from June 15 to September 15, just like we do with demolition. We don't allow demolition at that time because of all the dirt and dust and noise and et cetera. Because that is the height of our complaints. That should deal with many of the problems that generated. So I ask you to consider that ordinance and approve its introduction. And of course, if you see anything that you want to change, we can do that, but we've edited it a number of times. And as I understand, there might be a few other things not related to gunite that we may be considering in the near future. But other than that, thank you everybody for your help on this. It was, most towns don't have anything on this. So but I guess nowadays every new house has a pool. Everybody wants gunite sprayed concrete pools, and it causes a nuisance to surrounding properties. So we're going to address that as you requested. I think that's about it. I don't
All
really
right,
have.
thank you, Scott.
Mike, if I
Mark,
may
you
have a,
question?
yeah, I do. I have a question for Scott, and because I think when I read the ordinance, it referred to, maybe referred to the dewatering ordinance. My question is, are they going to be allowed to dig the hole in May and dewater all summer long?
No.
No.
So they can't dig the hole in May, So there'll be no dewatering after what period of time?
June 15th.
So after June 15th, the bags that we see on the street have to go?
Yep.
And if the hole is dug, does it have to be covered?
It has to be filled in.
So it would have to be filled in. So if they don't get the pool done by June 15th, they'd have to fill it in?
Yes.
Or
But
something?
they're probably not gonna start. They know if they can't get it done by June 15th, they won't start.
So typically, how long is the dewatering process for a
30 to
standard
40
pool?
30 to 45 days.
Okay. So then in that regard, they're gonna need to do this digging in February or March if they have hopes of getting it done. Okay, all right, good.
Good.
Okay.
Good, perfect, thank you.
Rich?
Thank you for that clarification. I have a clarification to ask about too. As I read the ordinance revised, it still mentions this permit from the Public Works Department, which is really the engineer, which we've had for years if you're gonna put water in the sanitary sewer system.
We don't
However-
want to do that.
However, right, I don't see how this relates to the pool and just, even if it remains in there.
Well,
The fact is, because we have the summer season off, we're still gonna have the water go into the stormwater system which you don't need a permit for.
no. But the point was, the many complaints came because of the bladder put in the street was blocking passage after a rain, and rain accumulated on either side or both sides of the bladder, and water laid there. By eliminating in the summer season dewatering, we don't have that problem. So we want to keep, as Frank said at the last meeting, we want to keep any, water from a dewatering system from going into our sewer, because there is sand that passes and silt passes through the bag beyond what you would think. So we eliminated that part of the dewatering because we're not going to have a problem. In October, the only thing I told Jimmy the other day is, in the event if a bladder's in there in October, just make sure the bladder is 6 inches off the curb so water can pass through at the curb, at the gutter and curb level, if you understand what I'm saying. So we won't have that problem.
I get all that, but I think the wording still remains in the ordinance about getting a permit for dewatering. And if it is, I suggest it just be stricken out because it's not needed. I mean,
Well,
Are we-
Well, we left, I think it was left in there in the case like we were faced with several years ago on Monmouth Avenue, where they were doing a job removing an underground storage tank, an oil tank that was leaking, and they had a remediation
no,
program.
we need that for other purposes,
Right,
that's correct.
right.
But
So I don't think it hurts us having it in the ordinance. In the case, if we're in a public area.
I'm fine as long as we all
we-
understand that 99% of the
But just let me
cases, we're
finish.
never gonna use that part of the
If we're in a public area, like in a commercial district, and they can't run the hose over the sidewalk, because it would be an unsafe condition, then there would be a way for them to put it into the sewer system, but we would have to have it go through Public Works. You would have to issue a permit, and we would have to, charge them for the discharge of the water.
I think it's for existing pools, right, Frank? When they want to go clean a pool and discharge the pool water into
empty in the pool.
right, that it,
So it's clean water. All right, that's why we have to leave it in there.
Okay.
Should I change it to construction department instead of?
Apparently, it doesn't have to be changed. It's,
Okay.
everybody understands the process, that in most cases, for constructing a pool, you're not gonna be putting it into there. They're not gonna need that permit.
Yeah,
But
so
for
it is-
other reasons, they will.
Yeah, under C, it says if the watering activity is required at the construction site, a further permit will be required from the Margate city engineer or designee in accordance with section, et cetera, which is what the cost would be to discharge the water into a sewer system. So I don't see where that becomes an issue. I think we should leave it in there. In the event, just say if there is a commercial establishment and they would have to do it,
I'm fine.
Okay.
And we'll have the forms, which will give further direction. We'll make up that permit. So
Well, it went out to
Okay.
all the contractors and pool people yesterday.
Okay.
Because I got calls.
And like I say, most of them, the
They're,
couple I talked to
most of
were
them are in
happy.
favor of it.
Okay.
So, we're moving.
Chief Adams, it's your turn.
Yes, Mayor, just two things real quick. One, there was a Heart of Surfing event, which was sponsored by our Beach Patrol to assist handicapped children with surfing and learning the process of surfing. That was scheduled for this Saturday. Due to the weather and the surf conditions, it has been moved to Saturday, September 4th, 9 to 12 at the same location at Coolidge Avenue and the beach. Second, and not really much else, but the Margate City Fire Department will be assisting the Atlantic City Fire Department tomorrow from 6:45 a.m. until approximately 1500 hours or 3 p.m., providing coverage in the city of Atlantic City while members and apparatus attend the funeral for their firefighter that passed away this past week. So just an outreach and assistance, and I spoke to Commissioner Amadeo earlier this week to assure that we were on board and everything's good. So that's it for the fire department. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Maury?
Nothing, Mike, thank you.
John?
Mike, I'm good.
Okay, I am also. Any public comment? There being no public comment, is there a motion to close public comment?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Mayor Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo,
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg,
Yes,
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mayor Becker,
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo,
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We will take a short break. We will reconvene our regular public meeting at 4 o'clock.